So the next thing is all about observability. Okay. So when I deploy a microservice application, so I need to monitor the service, right? So what are the parameters I'll be monitoring? Okay. One is on the logs, right? In the container world, I need to see the container log. If I see any abnormality in the logs, I should take some actions on that. Okay. So I should do the log aggregation in a centralized system. I should store the logs and I should process the log. And if I see any abnormality, I should create an alert and then notify things, and all these things should happen. Okay. And next thing is called the application metrics. So when I talk about application metrics, so these are all something like Java virtual machine. So I'm running a Java application. So Java virtual machine, it is going to create a Java VM. There inside the VM, I need to get some data like what is the heap size of the Java. Okay, is the garbage collection is happening properly in the Java? So those kind of metrics I need to receive it, right? Then only I can see whether my application is performing in a proper way. So you need to collect the application metrics also from the microservices, and there are tools to do that. Okay, for the log aggregation, we already talked about EFK, and for application metrics collection, you can use Prometheus. Prometheus is a monitoring tool for microservices. You can use that to collect the application metrics. Okay. And next thing is your audit logging. Okay. Audit logging is something like that. You need to access or identify who are all accessing the application. This is also a kind of a security requirement, right? Who access this application, when. So those kind of audit logs you need to collect. So that is also possible with the EFK kind of model. You can collect all the audit logs. Okay. And next one is called the distributed tracing. So when a request comes into a microservice, okay, where exactly the request is in, okay, how long it is taking to process in the UI layer, how long it is going to take it processed in the business logic layer, how long it is taking to do it in the database layer. So all these things you can track, okay, and based on that you can come to a conclusion. If the database is taking a longer time, you can send an alert and you can look into the database for any issues. Okay. And next is called as the exception tracing. So if there is any exceptions coming on the complete application processing, then you can use the exception tracing. There are tools available for that. And then next is health check API, right? So you need to implement health check for all the APIs and stuffs, right? So you have to check the health of every application or every microservice, and you need to monitor them. And next is your log deployment and changes. So log deployment and changes is all about if there is any deployment happen on my microservice, when it happened, okay, in the deployment change, what kind of parameters, you need to keep a track of that. So all these things you have to do it. And for all this tracking, you have tools available, and some of these are by default available with the Kubernetes. So these are all the things you should observe in a microservice for a better management of the microservice. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is called the UI patterns. Okay. So UI patterns is something like server side. There are two UI patterns available. One is the server side page fragmentation composition. That means you are creating a UI layer which will be consuming all the service and generate a HTML file and give it to the user. That's called server side page fragment composition. So in the server side, you have a UI component which is going to consume all the services and show the page to the end user. And another one is the client side UI composition. A typical example will be your React application or your mobile application, which is going to get the information from the API and show it to the end user. So these are all the two UI patterns available in the microservices.